flags with them big names and them big buildings, that's big business. Hit 10, but that's big pimpin'. My potential, that's infinite. Pin game insane, make hits like King Griffin, a 10th inning.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 17 of the 10th Inning Podcast. As always, I'm Sean. He is Dan. And I can't quite make out what you're holding up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, how you doing, Dan?
Doing well. A week into being here, as you guys know, pretty much exactly a week, because the moment I got here, I was on this podcast last time. So now I've had a little bit of a week to settle in. You know, I went to I've only missed one class. Well, if you count the Chinese, which I dropped, horrible situation, even until showing it off cam. I've missed 3 classes, but 1 class that I'm actually continuing to take. But since I'm adding a class now to replace the Chinese, I technically missed the first 2 of that one. However you want to put it, I would say I missed 1 class in all actuality.
And we love you for it. You know,
I'm going home. I'm going home from Martin, obviously. So
yes.
I got COVID today, so that on Tuesday when I can't be in class, now I'm still going to be in the window. So I didn't go to class today so that I wouldn't have to. I mean, I could have went, Sean, here we are. Let's do the podcast. Let's
see. You got COVID? You got COVID from Martin?
Well, I wasn't feeling too well last night, Sean. And I just want to make sure everybody stays safe. So I'm going to get tested today. But I would imagine I'm going to end up getting COVID. Given the fact I'll be home on Tuesday from Martin, Monday from Martin, but I'm not flying back till Tuesday night, and I'll be missing classes Tuesday night. There should be a reason for it, for sure.
That's fantastic. That's a lot of dedication. Anyway, just to give you guys a rundown of what we'll be doing today. We're going to give you our list of 5 and maybe even 6 of the teams that we feel need to win the most in this upcoming 2022 MLB season, if it ever starts. And as Dan is so eloquently wearing on his head right now, is some more the 10th inning merch. What we discussed last week still applies right now. And for those of you who have subscribed and told your friends, we thank you very much for that. And we appreciate your support and anything in the future. But yeah, please get going on what we challenged you in the 10th inning community.
That's right. Let's get it going here. Now, what are we talking about today, Sean? Do you have any idea?
Well, I think it's teams that need to win.
I feel like there's a good amount of them, Sean.
There really are. You don't think about it, and then when you start making a list, it adds up.
And what do we mean by teams that need to win necessarily?
So teams that maybe have kind of gone all in for this upcoming season, made win now moves and thrown the future maybe to the wind a little bit. Teams that have struggled in recent years and need to win, based off of the time period between their last winning season. And maybe just teams that we feel are coming of age and are about to break through, So, it applies to different situations for different teams, but yeah.
There's a little bit of ubiquity here in it. There's almost like how some people feel the MVP is. There's a little bit of different routes you can come to on how you can feel who really deserves it. And I like that because I think it's going to get some, again, just like last episode, a lot of different opinions here and some variants, which will be pretty exciting.
Absolutely. Now, do you want to start off or do you want me to start off?
Sean, I would like for you to pick a hand.
Okay. Right hand.
Right hand was you starting, kid. Not going to lie to you.
All right.
I'm a lefty.
Yeah, switch hitter. Anyway, so for my number, this is in order. My number 5 team that needs to win next year, in my opinion, the Philadelphia Phillies. I say this because I think it was 2-3 years ago they got Bryce Harper, which, Dan and I, we feel that was a detriment, and actually that would be a team wanting to lose would sign him. But in all cases, they signed Bryce Harper. They also signed or traded for Gene Segura, right? Got Didi Gregorius. Sir Didi. It's a shame he's on that team. They signed Zach Wheeler from the Mets to a rather large contract. He's done well. He's lived up to that contract, but nonetheless a large contract. Dave Dombrowski got hired as the GM and president of baseball operations last year, I believe. He's a win-now GM. He's won with the Marlins. He's not quite won with the Tigers, but got there and won a World Series with the Red Sox. He's a proven winner. They also have Joe Girardi, winning manager. Had a lot of years with the Yankees, and that was seen as a win-now hiring. But the results have not been good. They missed the playoffs in the 2020 shortened COVID season when half the league made it.
I made $20.
Literally half the league made it.
Yeah.
Last year, they didn't do much better. They finished 82-80, 2 games above 500, but 6.5 games out of the division behind the Braves, and 8 out of the wild card. They haven't made the playoffs in, I believe it's 11 years now, which is hard to fathom because during our childhood, they were consistent division champs, won the World Series, went to the World Series back-to-back years. It's just, and Philly, they want a winner much like New York, Boston, those kinds of cities. So I think that they've kind of thrown their chips into the middle of the table. And I think they need to win. Otherwise, things could really start getting ugly. They're in a tough spot with the cap, and they don't have a very loaded farm system. So they really have to kind of get it in gear for this upcoming season.
Yeah. Right as you were talking about the different ways people could perceive the answer to this question, the first team that popped in my head was the Phillies, who are not on my team. But I'll take my chance to talk about them now. When we were younger in that 2009, 2010 era, they were like elite. They were crazy.
Yeah.
Jay Roll, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, Victorino, the whole guys, Chooch, with crazy staffs, Lee, Oswald, Halladay. But then
Hamels,
they didn't break it up in time, right? They continue to keep pushing for playoffs for years and years and years without rebuilding. Which, a lot of people in the baseball community were like, they're trying again, but it didn't work. They really screwed the pooch there for like 3 or 4 years. I couldn't tell you what years, but it's like they thought they were going to be able to compete, but they clearly were not on par. It was very poor self-evaluation. But like you said, they rebuilt a little bit with their farm system. But again, I feel like, and I'm a huge proponent of JT Realmuto. I don't know if you can attest to this, but if you remember, probably 6 years ago, I was like, he's already the best catcher in baseball, even when he was on the Marlins, like young guy. I was so high on JT. They went out and got JT, but if I'm not mistaken, I know Sixto was in their pipeline. So did they trade Sixto for JT as part of that deal?
Yeah, I think it was him and Jorge Alfaro were the big name guys.
Well, Jorge Alfaro, thank God they got him off the roster. But for for Sixto Sanchez, I mean, that's kind of a guy they really need right now. And they could have built it around, like they were still pitching deprived as they've been. They've continued to try and add offense. And JT Realmuto is invaluable. Like, I don't think it's a bad get. Yeah. But, I mean, Sixto, he hasn't really done a lot yet in the major leagues, but that's a guy who could have stepped up this year and, like, really did something and pushed them over the limit. Whereas, now it's like they don't really have a pitching prospect like that. Yeah. To my knowledge.
And the bullpen's been a huge issue for them for like what feels like forever. They had a miserable bullpen last year and a really bad one the year prior, and they just haven't improved it for whatever reason.
They seem very similar to the Yankees in that regard, where they just attack areas that they have a very poor self-evaluation of need. Like they have certain needs, but then they attack other areas for some reason. Obviously signing Harper is going to help the team numbers-wise, clubhouse-wise. We can have that argument all day, all night. Didi Gregorius helps the team in every aspect humanly possible. Greatest player on the face of the earth. They have Kutch, which I thought was a good sign, even if he's not going to bring crazy value. At least he'll be clubhouse and has a lot of mentorship value. But I mean, like they have a formidable offense, an offense you could see in the playoffs, especially with an elite hitting catcher. The pitching is not good enough yet. I mean, they have Zach Wheeler, who had a good season this year. I don't know if I'm fully bought in on Zach Wheeler just yet because he struggled a long time with the Mets, even though the numbers said he should have been better, which is why he got the contract, even when he didn't really have a good season before that contract. He had an okay season, but they overpaid for him at the time. But he has, like you said, lived up to it a little bit. But they don't really have. I mean, they can't make the playoffs with the staff they have. They just can't.
No.
But they do need to win because they have thrown a lot of money around. And I did make $20 off of Leif betting that they would not make the playoffs even with expanded playoffs because the Phillies just absolutely suck ass and Bryce Harper will never make the playoffs again. Just to throw that out there, Leif, if you're listening, God bless your soul. That's all I got to say. Too much.
Beautiful.
I got to give mine now, right? I mean,
Hey, we get in depth here on the 10th inning.
I know. I'm sorry. So
Nothing wrong with it.
should I go for my shout out first or should I just go to 5? We'll do shout outs at the end.
I was going to do my shout outs at the end, but you can do whatever you'd like.
Sure. Number 5, I'm going with the Colorado Rockies.
Really?
I am.
Okay.
So the Colorado Rockies is a franchise, you might not know, have never won a World Series. Okay. 29 seasons they've been a franchise. They haven't won yet. And they're more than that because they are a newer franchise. 29 seasons isn't even one win for each team, you could say. Still a long time to not win a chip. And they've had some good talent rolling through there with Matt Holliday back in the day in his prime and some filthy players. But they have this stigma around them that it's really hard to win there. You know what I mean? Given the elements. It's hard to get enough pitching to succeed. I mean, when you think about it, like in all reality, it should be the same anywhere because it's standardized. When they're playing there, the other team's playing there too. So, I mean, it's just as hard for the other pitchers. But given the stigma they have, it's been very tough to attract free agent pitchers. It's even been tough to attract free agent hitters because it's harder breathing. It's not the weather is not great. I think Colorado's beautiful and they have good tax situation, but like there's definitely some downsides to signing with Colorado. And it's been tough to keep people there. Like Nolan was like, I mean, obviously it was about winning, but I'm sure not wanting to play in Colorado certainly played a factor in it. And I think for them to get that kind of monkey off the back to where like you can't win in Colorado, they need to win. Like Colorado to win a World Series, I feel like you'd see a lot more attention on the Rockies and a lot more free agent attention, which would then influx even more their potential for winning. So never won, 29 years, and I don't like the stigma. I think you can win in Colorado.
I mean, they haven't made the playoffs a lot in their history either. They had that crazy run in 2007 where they won like 19 of the last 20 games. Yeah. And Matt Holliday scored that run in that game 163 against the Padres, I believe. But yeah, they haven't had much success since they won. They wild card a couple years ago, and then they got swept by the Dodgers or someone else after that. They when they have made it, they haven't lasted a long time. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that. I will say this: they're never great typically, but they're also never
fun.
Terrible.
Team. They're always like in the middle.
Team. Yeah. Like I mean, they finished 74 and 87 last year, which is a lot better than what people thought. But in reality, you'd almost rather finish worse than that to get a draft pick. You don't want to lose, but they're kind of in the middle ground where you don't necessarily want to be for a long period of time, which I feel like they've been in that ground for a while. I mean, they're consistently finishing 3rd or 4th in the NL West, like every year.
Yeah. I'd like to see the Rockies hold up the trophy one day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's hear number 4.
So my next one is going to be mainly, I guess, somewhat selfishly, but also for the good of baseball. I think you probably know where I'm going with this. The LA Angels, Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, box office players. I mean, they are box office absolute studs. Mike Trout's potentially one of the greatest players of all time. He's made the playoffs once. I think he has 3 total games, and he's been playing since 2011. That's a long time. To make the playoffs once in a 10 or 11 year span is hard to believe, especially for a team that has a guy like him, and also in a market like LA or Anaheim, which is just outside LA, but what's the difference? And they consistently throw money around too. They're not necessarily sitting on their pocketbooks and not spending money. They
But they're
signed
Phillies,
Anthony
Yankees
Rendon.
type people.
Yes, they signed Anthony Rendon. That hasn't worked out too well. I mean, throwback, they signed Josh Hamilton. That worked out miserably. Albert Pujols, it didn't. I mean, it wasn't awful when they signed Pujols, but it didn't work out the way they wanted to. They're not afraid to spend money, but I mean, you got to get Mike Trout and now Shohei Ohtani into the playoffs. There's a lot of pressure on them. I feel like every year, everybody is just begging them to make the playoffs. Everybody in baseball wants to see Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani in the postseason. We haven't seen Shohei Ohtani, and we've barely seen Trout. I guess that, I mean, for Major League Baseball, I guess that's kind of like a selfish thing, but you want that. You want your best players on the best stage. They last year were just absolutely god awful. 77 and 85, maybe not god awful, but they actually, some people picked them to make the playoffs last year. They finished fourth in the AL West. Yeah, I think I would have had them in there too if we had the podcast at that time. But pitching's their issue. They just can't seem to have consistent pitching, and beyond the big names on their offense, their lineup kind of tails off at the end. But I think it's a team that needs to really win. They needed to win years ago, and they still haven't. And they signed Mike Trout for 10 years for an ungodly amount of money. So he's there for the long term, and they really should improve in any way they can and maybe spend their money a little more smartly than they have been.
Yeah, I completely agree. As I so rudely interrupted in the middle of that, I said they're doing the Yankees and Phillies thing, but they're just not evaluating what they need. I mean, they're just signing offensive guy after, and like good guys like Pujols was a good player, but didn't work out for them. Can't do anything about that. Josh Hamilton, loved the juice, didn't work out. I didn't think that one was going to work out ever because I think you could tell he was like finishing up when he was finishing that season with Texas. That's my opinion. I feel like I kind of called that. Again, it's too long ago to even get fact checked on that.
Yeah.
But how many years in a row are we going to ask for them to get pitching? We thought we were getting Garrett Cole. We thought they were getting – I'm not even going to go up through the list. But every stud pitcher that's came on the market the last 4 years tied to the Angels, or they're getting them. They got to get them. They need the pitching.
Yeah.
I mean –
Trevor Bauer.
Everyone thought the Angels were getting all the pitching. They haven't made one move for a pitcher. They're relying on their best current hitter in last season, Trout. Trout's their best hitter. But their second best hitter to be the pitcher. I mean, you just got to get another pitcher. You just have to. You can't win. Even if you were to make it to the playoffs just slugging it out, you can't win a 3 or 5 or 7 game series with no pitching. You need pitching. Pitching wins championships. And it's just like they have the money, clearly, to throw it around. So it's just, please, for the love of God, get some pitching.
Yeah.
I can't agree more. They really do need to win. They are wasting careers over there, wasting them. And a little personal tidbit here. They were probably like growing up my third favorite team. I know you've heard me talk about Texas a lot as my second favorite team, but they were like my third favorite team. They were always in the playoffs when I was younger. Mike Scioscia always got there. Yankees killed them in the playoffs too. But the all red uniforms back in the day, all red, that bright red. Ooh, thank you. That was my next point. Vlad, like I loved those teams. Vladdy, the all red, same thing as Texas, really. Vladdy with the all red, Mike Scioscia. I loved Dan Harron, CJ Wilson.
Yeah.
Those were some boys.
Jared Weaver.
Torrey Hunter, patrolling center. Jared Weaver, of course. No. I mean, they were, it's a fun team. Sean Figgins, a fun organization, but they do really need to figure it out, which is insane. But I agree, is the basis. But I have to say, not on my list either. So we will have, I hope we go for 10 different teams here, Sean.
That'd be great.
So my number 4 team, I'm going to go with the Miami Marlins. Okay?
Before you get going, I think we definitely had different kind of mindsets with how we were going about picking our teams, which I like. I like that we thought differently.
So we could have had it all, and then our pitch had passed, and then we traded all our good players away. Okay, the Marlins were just set up to win the fucking World Series back to back to back to back. Can we just take a little bit of a step back and count who their players would have been? Let's take the best catcher in the league behind the plate in JT Realmuto. Okay, let's take Giancarlo, Christian Yelich, and Marcell Ozuna as your fucking outfielders. And I know Yelich just fell off and Ozuna's hitting people somewhere in the Dominican Republic. But I mean, like, for a couple of years, that would have been like they were all in their prime.
Back-to-back MVPs, Stanton and Yelich, won it back-to-back in the National League.
Right after they traded him. I mean, it's insane. They would have had Jose Fernandez. They have a great Sandy Alcantara is filthy. They have other Trevor Rogers, right? Filthy. He's on my fantasy team. I mean, they had middle infielders too. I can't even think of what middle infield.
I mean, if you want to think about it, they traded away Hanley Ramirez before then.
Yeah, Hanley. I don't know if he would have been like for the run, maybe the tail end. But I don't know how productive he would have been. Like even when he was with Boston at the end, still a hitter, enough of a hitter. There was a middle infielder or two they had, slipping my mind now. But I mean, they would have been, Sean, I mean, just easy World Series contenders, even with those 4 bats.
Yeah.
If you take 2 through 5, your bats are going to, with Jazz Chisholm out there at second now. I mean, JT, Giancarlo, Christian Yelich, and Ozuna. I'm not facing that lineup, Sean.
No.
With Jazz at the top, with Jose Fernandez, bona fide ace. Would have been one of the best pitchers right now. Filthy stuff, filthy slider. So competitive. I loved Jose Fernandez.
Great hitter.
Great hitter. I mean, sucks. They really had it all. But, you know, unfortunate situations as well as trades that didn't necessarily work out because their players didn't – I guess they didn't show their – they didn't get the best value out of their players when they could have. Shit happens. They need to win. I mean, it's just sad to think about. They need to win. Marlins are also another fun ball club. No one's gonna root against the Marlins. I mean, that's all I'm gonna say. You give me your take on it.
I like that. Like I said, we're coming from different, I guess, points of view, which is fantastic. But yeah, they a Marlins team has won 2 World Series. Came 97 and 03. Both times tore the teams down the next year. They got a new ballpark. Everybody hates it down there. It's a weird kind of situation they find themselves in. And then in 2012, when they opened the ballpark, they signed everybody and their mother. Jose Reyes, Heath Bell, Mark Burley. I mean, just to name a few. It's Carlos Zambrano. So they have a very complicated history, and they haven't, aside from making the playoffs in the COVID year, they haven't made the playoffs since 2003. So I absolutely understand where you're coming from, and they have some young talent coming up the pipeline. But man, was there any bigger event that changed the fate of a baseball team than Jose Fernandez dying?
No,
I mean, they were on the rise.
Yeah.
He was box office must-see TV. They almost sold out that stadium when he pitched, which is saying a lot because they don't get fans in there. And then when he died, I still remember waking up in the morning and literally scrolling on my phone after just waking up and ESPN popping across my screen saying Jose Fernandez is dead. That I didn't think it was true. It was kind of like when Kobe Bryant died. When I saw that, it was just like, whoa.
Well, that was my birthday and I was at work. So
yeah, yeah. But no, I agree with what you're saying 100%.
I was at Leif's house and I woke up on the couch, saw a little pirate painting right to my left, turned and looked at the TV. All it said was Jose Fernandez is dead. I'm like, well, that's not a way to wake up in the morning. It just wasn't
not at all.
And I quickly researched what their staff could have looked like. It would have been 5-1. I'll just give you, at least in my opinion. I'm adding some pitchers they lost. Trevor Rogers at the 5, which by the way is filthy. Sandy Alcantara at the 4, which could be somewhat of an ace after this year. Just watch it out, book it again. Chris Paddock, possibly if he works out at the 3. Put him at the 5. Put Chris Paddock at the 5. Luis Castillo. Don't know if you know who he is.
They had him?
They had Luis Castillo and Jose Fernandez. I mean, could you imagine with that offense?
Yeah, that would be tough to beat.
No, it would have been crazy. Anyway, go to your third team.
My third team is the San Diego Padres. There's
Don't have them.
multiple reasons why I picked them. First off, aside from the COVID shortened year, they haven't made the playoffs since I think 2006.
Yeah.
They are perennially the doormat of the National League. You watch the games in their ballpark against the Dodgers, it's 90% Dodger fans. It is kind of a little depressing considering the team is in San Diego and, perfect weather. There's really no reason not to have people come there. But they have tried to build up the team multiple times. I think they did it in 2015-16. They signed Will Myers, James Shields, Justin Upton, among many others, and it just did not work at all. It was miserable. Between them and the Marlins, they've done that multiple times, and it hasn't worked.
How about Melvin?
Yeah, Melvin Upton or BJ, whatever he's going by now. It did not work out very well.
No.
And then last year they saw their young talent Fernando Tatis Jr. They went for it. They traded for Blake Snell. They traded for Mike Clevenger. They got Tommy Pham. I forget if I was a trader or signing. I forget at the moment.
Sure.
What else did they do? They made other moves in the season.
They got Yu Darvish.
Thank you, Yu Darvish. They traded for Adam Frazier in the regular season.
Yeah.
They really went all in.
They got Aaron Nola. And that all, so I think it might have been the deadline, but they got Aaron Nola.
Oh, not from the Phillies, right?
No, catcher.
Oh, is that his brother?
Is it? I think I don't know if they're related. Oh, Austin Nola? Austin Nola, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Aaron Nola's pitcher for the Phillies. I was gonna say, wait a second.
Yeah,
he's good.
Sorry.
No,
Austin Nola.
Yeah, and you first you made me think I missed out on for a second.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. Yeah, they went for it. They had a real decent first half of the season, and in the second half, they just absolutely fell off a cliff. Finished 79-83, which at one point in the year, I'm pretty sure they were 15 games over 500. But ironically enough, with those offensive weapons, their offense sucked.
Yeah.
I also didn't talk about they signed Eric Hosmer and Manny Machado to monster deals, which they're trying to get out of the Hosmer one now. But they were going all in for it to compete with the Dodgers because no one saw the Giants coming up there. And they just didn't do it. I mean, it goes to show you that you can't buy a championship in baseball, especially. Yeah, I think they got some pressure to win, even though San Diego maybe it's not the hottest ticket in town, but I think that they have a fun roster of players, but they just got to show it.
No, I couldn't agree more. They've went for it twice now, and seemingly, I mean, the second time's not over yet, but seemingly completely screwed up both times and have spent probably $2 billion in the process. That's not a joke. So no, it has not worked out. I think. I mean, some of the talent they've gotten has been like, again, poor evaluation. I don't think they should have ever paid Hosmer. I don't like Hunter Renfroe. They signed him for a little bit and ended up trading him. Justin Upton, what are we doing? BJ Upton, what are we doing? Big Game James, what are we doing? Manny Machado, it looks like a good sign. But I think they've acquired some decent talent. I don't think they ever should have bought it on Yu Darvish after the one good year he's had with so many years prior where he hasn't been great. But I love Clevenger. I think he's going to be my ace for my Fantrax team. They got him mid-Tommy John, odd decision.
Very.
Could not work out. I think he's going to, but who the fuck am I? I'm some kid on a computer right now. So they're just not building teams. They're collecting players. And it's exciting because they collect players that seem like they're going to be good, but they're not really building a team. And you need to build a team, not collect players. So
absolutely, I agree.
I don't agree with the way they've gone about it. So I don't like them. I don't like the Padres anyway. Going
Shocker.
to my third team. Again, we have a difference here. And I'm going, and hold your horses here, the New York Yankees. Okay? I think the New York Yankees need to win. It's been 12 years since they've won. I'm sorry, which is the longest streak of all time in Yankees history. And more importantly, other than it being the longest streak ever, because of that, I think they're in real danger here in the next year or two of losing the city. And what I mean by that is not even the city. I mean the crown. Even bigger than the city. I mean, the city's important to me because I'm a New Yorker. Yankees are the king of New York. Mets are the little brother still. People can have different opinions, but that's the general sentiment, overarching. But if you were to go to fucking Canada, well, not Canada's an awful example because they have the Blue Jays. If you were to go to another country or a state Japan or a state that doesn't have, well, Japan's definitely going to have the Angels hats now. If you were to go to another state that doesn't have a baseball team, what hats are they wearing?
Yankees.
They're wearing Yankees hats. If you don't have a team, you're wearing Yankees hats. That's just the Yankees are the premier team in the league. But 12 years in a row without winning, it's over a decade. You got to think about it. Like with any sport, whether you like it or not, there's bandwagon fans. And they grew so much of fan base because it was easy to root for them when you grow up. At any point in which you grew up in the last 50 to 70 years, you could have liked the Yankees and it would have been easy for you because they were the champions when you were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
But there's kids like from 12 to 24 or whatever it is. It's 12 years now? Holy shit. From 12 to 24. I can't even imagine that's true. That haven't seen the Yankees win.
Yeah.
Or from 0 to 12. You're losing those fans. And these aren't exciting teams to watch either. Like, these are dog shit. That maybe they just make the playoffs, but they're like, the players are not fun to root for. The management's terrible. The decisions are weird. The product isn't that exciting. They're losing New York, especially after this season, which I think the Mets are probably going to have a pretty good season. I mean, the Mets really went for it. Again, they put a lot of money into a lot of good talent. We'll see if it works out or if it's going to be another Padres situation. But they do have a well-rounded roster. It's not like they got weird talent. They have decent pitching. They have good offense. I think their defense lines up pretty well. They have solid defenders everywhere. If the Mets put up a World Series type contender this year and do so for the next couple of years, Yankees Nation is you better watch out. They're not going to be the kings of New York anymore, and they won't be the kings of the world either. So they need to win if they want to hold that title.
You make an outstanding point. I know a lot of Yankee fans, obviously, and you're probably the top of the list.
They lost me.
And I don't think that any of them enjoyed this season. I have had Yankee fans tell me that they wish they didn't make the playoffs so they didn't have to watch them longer. And that wasn't even you who said that. It was other people I know who said that, which is just bizarre to think about. But they just, I don't know. They don't have a fun team to watch. I'm obviously not a Yankee fan, but I never would go out of my way to watch them play.
Yeah.
It's not even fun to root against them. You know what I mean? It's a weird
They've gotten to that point, which is scary. You want people who want to root against the Yankees. It's scary. They're getting to that point.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's something we're not used to at all.
Yeah. I hope
they will make an appearance on my list, by the way. So
all I have to say though is I think we can all pinpoint the exact moment this ship started going down real hard. And when was that? Could you pinpoint it for me?
When Didi Gregorius left.
That's right. Thank you. He was fun to watch.
My number 2 team you just mentioned, the New York Mets. I like to think there's not bias in this being number 2. Maybe there is. I'm not really sure. Haven't won since 1986. That's a lot of years. That's a long time. It's a lot of generation. You're talking about 12 years, and Yankee fans. That's it. I mean, it's put it this way: I'm 22 years old, born in 1999. In my lifetime, the Mets have made the playoffs 4 times.
Yep.
99, 2000, 06. No, 5 times, 15 and 16.
Okay.
But 16 lost in the wild card game.
Right,
Either way,
right,
I'm 22, right? 6 times. New York market doesn't get bigger than that. They are fanatics about all their sports teams. You're looking at 2 of them right here. They went for it last year. Didn't work out that well. There was a lot of, I don't know, between the team, the players didn't necessarily see eye to eye. There was some bad blood. We got a new owner, so that kind of added pressure to it because, he spent all kinds of money. They had just an awful year. They first half, they were in first place in the first half, but it never felt like they were playing well. The whole time, I personally was very uncomfortable. I had a feeling they were going to fall off, and unfortunately they did in just wonderfully awful fashion. The highlight of the year was Francisco Lindor hitting 2 home runs against the Yankees. Let's put it that way. It was the highlight of the entire year. But anyway, like you said before, they put a lot of money in this offseason again with Max Scherzer, Starling Marte. And people think they're going to get Chris Bryant. There's still other moves that they're potentially going to make out there. Steve Cohen, the owner, talks a huge game. So there's a bit of a target on their back. But also in the pressure goes along with what you were just saying about the Yankees. They have an opportunity to build the fan base and kind of maybe not take over the city per se, but at least increase their stake in the city. And that's huge. That's huge, financially for the team, but also in building a fan base and kind of changing the way people look at the Mets, considering they have just been a laughing stock for the majority of their existence. I think they got a lot of pressure, and I'm really, really hope that they do well this year. It actually meant a lot to me when you said that you think that the Mets could threaten the Yankees for the crown of New York. That meant a lot to me, even though it might not happen, but it really did mean a lot to me right in my heart.
I know the history of the last 45 years. I am afraid, even as like a 10% Yankees fan, because they've beaten the Yankee love out of me, that the trajectory of the next 45 doesn't look good. It's tough when you're in the moment to understand that a dynasty could fall, but they all do fall, Sean.
They do.
I think there is a chance that in 50 years from now, you might be talking about the Yankees like you're talking about the Mets, which is
I don't know how I'd handle that. But anyway, just something real quick that it seems like now champions or championships are more spread out. You don't see the Yankees winning 3 out of 5 like they did in like the 70s or the 90s. Or the Cardinals, they used to win a bunch too. It's definitely more spread out. So even though the Yankees haven't won in 12 years, it's not like they haven't been good during that period of time. There's also more teams now than there has ever been, and there's a lot more competition. So there is some, reasons aside from them not having necessarily the best talent.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So I guess I'm going number 2 here, right? Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So my number 2 team, a little bit of bait and switch, but it is your Seattle Mariners here that I have as my background, as my number 2 team. Seattle has never won. Again, it's been 45 years. They have had 116 win seasons, if I'm not mistaken. I believe the most of all time, correct?
Yes, yeah.
They have had Rookie of the Year MVP Ichiro Suzuki run through, not to mention Edgar Martinez, Ken Griffey Jr., Alex Rodriguez. Also, I believe all 3 at the same time at a certain point. So they
Felix Hernandez.
They have had some players, Sean. They have had some teams. Clearly, they won 116 games. The unit, you said Randy Johnson. Yeah, I mean they've had some teams there, Sean. They gotta get it done, pal. That fan base needs it. Another one of these teams that I find to be fun to watch. I find to be genuinely exciting. The whole Kings Court, their fan base gets into it. That's gone now, but I mean, I think their future looks so exciting. I personally just traded for Julio Rodriguez, as you guys know. I got Julio and Kelnick out there. I'm open there, as well as their future outfield, my future outfield. I like what they have going forward, but they've been here a lot of times and then not made it work. And I do want to shout out the Mariner series by Sports Nation or SB Nation. I forget what it is.
I think it's Secret Base now, I believe.
Secret Base. That's what the SB is. Yeah, for Secret Base, you gotta watch that Mariner series on. It's like maybe a 6-part series, probably 2 or 3 hours worth of content. Split it up, but however you want to do it. But it's phenomenal, and it just goes through the entire history of the Mariners, how they came into existence, and how they just kept getting so close, but without fail, just failed. And it's just they need to win. Everyone knows it too. Everyone knows the Mariners need to fucking win. Finally, that is my last statement.
I have a question for you. Do you remember where you were when Felix Hernandez threw that perfect game?
I don't.
Because I do.
Okay, I don't. Where were you?
You were here in Cooperstown when it happened.
Oh, you remember where I was? Okay.
Yeah, you were with me.
I was with you. All right. Oh God, that's.
I remember.
Thank God we're not dating, Sean. That would have been a bad situation there. That would have been it, huh? What were we doing that day?
I have no idea, but all I know is we were watching MLB Network and they showed a live look-in and we watched the final out.
Little lake action, maybe 2 for 2, 2 for 2. Go,
oh yeah,
Danny. Oh yeah. I can't remember the song. Can you go 2 for 2?
2 for 2. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Go,
Danny. Randy Choate. Randy Choate. Guys, that meant nothing to you, but it's a lot of personal insight.
Randy Choate should be in the Hall of Fame. There's that statement.
That's what we used to yell at each other in like little hitting games that we'd make in his backyard in Cooperstown. Randy Choate would be the choke. You know,
yes.
they want you to Randy Choate. But anything to say about the M's, or what's your number one? That's up to you.
Well, my number one is the Yankees.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was going between the Yankees and the Mets, and I just went with the Yankees because of the precedent they had. I mean, you very eloquently said it before. They have a history of winning. And in order to be the Yankees, you gotta have to deal with that pressure. You gotta earn your pinstripes, as they say. And yeah, they need to win. I don't want them to win, but for their sake, in their position, they have to win.
Yeah. No one's going to keep shaving their beard if they keep putting out products like that.
Yeah. And also, they haven't exactly hit with some large contracts they've been out. Garrett Cole has been good, but not anything worth what he's getting paid. I mean, do you want to go back to Jacoby Ellsbury? That has not. I'd rather not. That did not work out whatsoever. And you go from there. I don't have to rehash everything you just said, but yeah, I think that they have the most pressure to win. And then I'll give you my bonus one, I guess you want to call it,
sure.
After you give your first one.
So my number one, Sean, a little drum roll, please. So we've only had one team that completely, and I'm sorry, I almost just killed your whole setup by asking you to drum roll. We've only had one team that was the same, which is amazing. I'm glad it happened. Was hoping it would, but I wasn't sure. The Texas Rangers, Sean. Believe it or not. They have never won in 61 years of their franchise's existence. I'm surprised, by the way, the Indians didn't make it on either list, who have the longest drought right now.
Yeah.
And made it to the World Series. So I'll just shout them out quickly because they're not even my shout out, to be frank. They might be yours. I'm sorry if I just took that from you.
No, they're not. They're not.
Okay. The Rangers never won. It's been 61 years since their franchise began in 1961. And again, there's a little bit of personal, not hometown, but childhood bias here. They were so good in our childhood. God. They were my second favorite team for so many reasons I've already discussed. Take a look at the unis. Okay, how about Juice Hamilton, Nelly Cruz, Elvis Andrews, Alexio Gondo. They also had C.J. Wilson. I mean,
Michael Young.
Michael
Adrian
Young.
Beltre.
How about Beltre, my third favorite player of all time? Can we
also their stadium, even though it was hot as hell there, was so nice. I like the little
nice. They had Vladdy. Who did they have behind the plate, Sean?
Was it
they had Benji
Mitch Moreland
for a little bit, right?
Yeah, and they had Mike Napoli.
Mike Napoli, the beard with some pop, one of the best hitting catchers at that point in time.
Yeah.
I mean, they were just fun, man. And they made the World Series. Am I saying twice?
2 years in a row, I think.
Because they got no, they didn't. The Tigers got swept by the Giants. They lost to the Cardinals, obviously.
They lost in 11 to the Cardinals. Yeah, Cardinals were 11.
Or was that to make it into the World Series? The David Freese situation.
No, that was in the World Series. That was in. That was Cardinals Rangers.
They made it twice.
And then they did. They made it again, and they lost to the Giants one of the years. So I think they made it in 10 and 11. They lost to the Giants in 10, and then
But again, they haven't won in their entire franchise existence. Again, I can go through the names they've had, not just in 2010, but how about we talk about Nolan Ryan and some of them boys? But I mean, such great teams. We're talking you could not have gotten physically closer. And the teams they lost to were the Cardinals, who were at that point always a wild card team. They might have won. How many games did they win that year? Didn't they win like 80-something games that year?
I think they got in that year. The last day, like the day where Evan Longoria hit that home run. Remember that crazy day? I think they barely got in.
If I'm not mistaken, that was the least amount of wins a team had made. Definitely to win the World Series, but to get in the playoffs, I believe. It was like the lowest ever.
Yeah, it was pretty low, yeah.
I might have even been 83 wins. If you fact check that on me, that'd be great. But I mean, they were so close. They lost to teams that, and even when the Giants won, the Giants were never this powerhouse. They were just a group of guys that gelled and got it done. And the way in which they lost, Sean.
Oh my God.
I mean, Nelly Cruz, a strike away, man.
They were Nelson Cruz catching a ball away from winning it.
Oh, I mean, they were a World Series champion in my mind in that era. And the fact they never got it done and never have, I didn't know that until I researched, never have, they got to win, man. They're not going to win this year, obviously.
They were like 1 out away 3 times in that game.
Yeah.
3 times.
And that was game 6 to send the Cardinals to game 7, which they won. Like, it was over.
It was like, when the ball went through Buckner's legs. That was game 6, but the series was essentially over when it happened.
Yeah. I mean, they have to win. They got Seager and Simeon up the middle. I don't think they're going to win now, but they do need to win at some point.
So in 2011, they were 90-72. But in 2006, they won the World Series that year. They were 83-78. So it wasn't 11, but in 2006, they beat the Mets. And they had 83 wins. So yeah, I have to imagine that might be the least amount of wins ever to win the World Series.
At least I had the 83 number right. I'll give that a little pat. Wrong year.
Absolutely.
But no, they had to win, bro. They have to win.
Absolutely.
Let's hear your shout out.
My shout out, you mentioned the Seattle Mariners. I feel bad for them. I really do. They are so loyal. Their fans are extremely loyal. Edgar Martinez got inducted 2 years ago into the Hall of Fame. And the turnout of Seattle Mariners fans traveling across the country to just see him get inducted into the Hall of Fame was just unbelievable. Their fans are diehard, through and through. They have had some great players come through. Your name, and I mean Ken Griffey, Edgar Martinez, the list goes on. But their fans are really loyal. Seattle fans are very loyal. I mean, look at the Seattle Seahawks, stuff like that. But yeah, I just kind of feel bad for them. It's been 21 years since they've last made the playoffs, I believe. I mean, that is impossible to imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about being born 21. You could buy a legal drink before watching your team in the playoffs. Just think about
the playoffs.
Yeah. And to be fair, there's been a lot of seasons where they haven't even been competitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they got 90 wins a couple of years ago, but they weren't even close to the playoffs. But I really, really hope that they have a good year this year and they make it to the playoffs and get some home games for that. I want to see that stadium packed out.
100%. Yeah, no, you gotta shout them out. Again, quickly. Also, I just want to say Cliff Lee for a second time this episode.
Yes.
For Texas, but you gotta shout out the Indians again. The Rajai Davis home run might be my favorite moment ever watching a baseball game, believe it or not. I was rooting for the Indians, and that home run by Rajai off Aroldis was just nutty. That was crazy.
You're all this smile.
In Cleveland, Aroldis is never upset to get up a run. I've never seen him upset as a Yankee fan. But that was crazy. Love the Indians. The only reason I say they don't need to win is because, I mean, fuck their management, man. I mean, they might literally have had maybe top 5 talent. Like top 5 of all the teams have had the most talent in the last 10 years and have just fucking, I mean, just, I don't know, I can't think of the word, but just gave up on it. Just not used it. They easily, I mean, they were in the playoffs for so many years, beat the Yankees, like when I was at Bonaventure and stuff like that, 2017, 2018 situations. And yet in all those years at the deadlines, they were sellers. They have been so uber talented pitching wise and offensively. They had 2 of the best players in all of baseball in Jose and Lindor. They just screwed the pooch, babe. I mean, they don't care about winning. They just don't care. No. And for that reason, I'm rescinding my shout out and giving it to another team. And giving it, and say what you want, but I'm going to have a reason here. The Los Angeles Dodgers. Okay? Yes, there's a tad, I'm talking tad bit of bias here. But I'll tell you why, and you're going to agree with me by the end of this statement. They need to win. First off, I understand they won in 2020. But they also lost in 2017 when they got cheated. They also lost in 2018 when they may or may not have been cheated. It hasn't fully came out, but there's a lot of reports that Boston was cheating. They lost in 2019, obviously not in the World Series, but a very heartbreaking situation. And they lost in 2021, another very heartbreaking situation. The Dodgers could have easily won 5 championships the last 5 years. They've been the best team for the last 5 years. It'd be hard to argue that statement. That being said, the one year they won, they finally win the chip. Kirsch finally wins his chip. And all these people, including yourself, all you can say is they won a chip. You mean the Mickey Mouse fucking award they won? Then you can play 162, those guys. They sucked. Everybody made the playoffs that year because they made the playoffs by the skin of their teeth. That's what happened there. But no one respects the World. It's almost respected less than the Astros World Series. Okay, so I don't want them as a dynasty. This last really 10 years, but 5 years and going for the next couple as a dynasty for their one World Series to be in question. That is ridiculous. They are a team with the players they've assembled and collected the last 5 years that deserves multiple championships, to be thought of as one of the greatest teams of all time ever, which I think they were last year. I think it might have been the greatest team ever assembled, ever. It didn't play out like that. That's baseball. It's not always about who the best players are on the team. It's a team. And I just don't want them to be remembered by a championship that some people don't legitimize. And it's a little bit aggravating.
No, that does make a lot of sense. And I bust your balls for it. It's a funny thing, I know Leif does too, but I understand where you're coming
People
from.
do say it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Hell, I was on the record as saying I hope the Mets don't win the World Series that year because I didn't want to put up with it. They didn't make the playoffs, so thank you for that. So but I can absolutely understand what you're saying. That's another reason why I don't want this year's season to be shortened. So we don't have to deal with that bullshit again,
I hear you.
Yeah. I think we did a very good job with the list. I really did.
I do.
I like how we came at it with different angles, I guess.
Yes, we did. And I think we were able to highlight 10 or really 10, 11, or 12 teams that need to win.
Yeah.
Which is, and every team needs to win. Let's not say they don't, except for the Atlanta Braves. They can go absolutely fuck themselves. And the Giants, they can fuck themselves too. I'm not going to get on a rant here, but a lot of teams need to win. But these were, I think we outlaid a lot of good ideas here today. I'm proud of ourselves. Let's give ourselves a pat on the back. Fuck everybody watching. This is our podcast, babe. I have a double pat.
Absolutely.
Sean, what do we have? Are we good on this episode? I think that was enough.
I think we're approaching an hour. So yeah.
What do we have to look forward to next week? Is it just like what are we doing next week, or is there something coming?
So we're getting into the meat and potatoes of the off season. Exactly. We're gonna eat it up. We're gonna eat it up. So from now until whenever the season starts, God willing it does, Dan and I, including maybe some guests along the way, are going to go through the top 10 at each position, including utility players. So we're going to do at least one position per episode, maybe two. We got to see how long it goes, because if you haven't noticed, we both can talk. We can talk for days about baseball. We really can, which is why we're doing this. So I personally, and I think you can agree with me, are very excited about this upcoming topic. MLB Network has theirs every year. It's what the Shredder has their projected rankings of players. We're going to take what we see and give our opinions. It should be a lot of fun. Along the way, you're going to see what positions are more loaded than the others. Catching position we could be in AAA before we get to 7 or 8 on the list.
That's right.
We really could. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. And it'd be a great way to get us ready for the season. Again, God willing, there is a season. So I'm very much looking forward to it.
And that is all going to culminate, Sean, if I'm not mistaken. And I think we'll have a couple episodes before the regular season where we'll talk about maybe award predictions and some hot takes and stuff. But this rankings of every position is going to culminate in our top 50s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Which will again be exciting to see what positions have more value. You might not see a catcher in the top 50. You might see 10 shortstops. Just based on position, how good each position is. But I'm excited for it. A lot of research to be done. I haven't asked you yet, but I'm going to ask you here on the pod again, they love the behind the scenes stuff.
Absolutely.
They can't get enough. Are we skewing this fantasy wise, or are we skewing this real world?
That's a good question.
Because defense, I feel like would come into play in my mind more if we're going real world. Obviously, fantasy wise, defense doesn't get taken into account as much.
Personally, I wouldn't mind doing real world.
Yeah, perfect. Go with that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Maybe we can throw in some fantasy insight. Like, let's say we got a guy who's an average hitter, but a way above average defender. We're like, well, if this was fantasy, I wouldn't rank him this high, but give our reasons.
There you go. I like that. That sounds perfectly fine to me. And are we giving a little bit of projections with some players? Are we giving a projected quick slash line? Are we doing no projections, just rankings?
I think we could do that. Yeah. Maybe not for every player necessarily, but we can look at maybe their situation. Like, let's say Corey Seager with how his numbers in games going to translate to a new team with the Rangers. Yeah. Something along those lines. So,
okay.
That works for you.
That works.
And the fans, of course.
I might even do it for every player for shits and gigs. Quick average on base, and I might just do I might do average on base and homers. That's what I'm gonna do.
All right, you heard it here first, folks.
Heard it here first, John. I really hope I do it. Otherwise, we're gonna have to edit this out. But you guys should really look forward to that, because that is going to be crazy exciting. A lot of research is going to be done on me and Sean's part to get that to you. Starting this, I'm glad we're doing this right as we're getting into school. Perfect time to take time away from my week to do research. It couldn't happen at a better time. But it's going to be exciting. Again, guys, I'll mention it for another time. These hats are fantastic. Okay, I've been wearing this pretty much nonstop since I got it. Looks fantastic forward. Let's not lie to each other. Looks amazing backward. It's white. It goes with literally everything. Look at this. Look at this black Nike tee with the white. Come on, I got a small ass head. Weird looking head. And
he's got a very small head. And
it looks great on me. I mean, could you imagine? And don't be afraid that it's just for small heads. I mean, this is adjustable. We can't get any smaller than that for me, obviously. But for you, you make it as big as you fucking want. One size fits all, babe. Let's
Absolutely.
get the subs up, the dollars down, and the hats out. 1, 2, 3. That's all we got to do. You tell them what you got to tell them, Sean, and close them out if you feel.
As always, follow us, comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff on Instagram and on YouTube. Tell your friends to tell their friends. Tell your dog, tell your mother, tell your grandmother, tell your brother, tell your uncle. Tell anybody you can. Just start screaming from the rooftops. The 10th Inning Podcast is the best up-and-coming baseball podcast in the entire world. I don't have any qualms with saying that. I know you don't either. But we're gonna do big things and come along the way and join us.
Sean.
Yeah.
Have you heard? Have you
What?
heard the 10th Inning Podcast? It's the best having baseball podcast in the world.
Absolutely.
That's all.
Absolutely. I like you're quick on your feet there, Dan. I like
That's it. God, not on my feet, but at least in my share. We'll see you guys next week for the 18th episode, special DD episode to start off the power rankings. We'll be doing catchers. Am I right, Mr. First?
Yes, sir.
Sounds good. We'll see you there, guys.